What's going on, everyone? I want to talk about Stanley Johnson. And yes, Stanley Johnson that the Lakers had was 2, 3 years ago now. That was very impressive. That many people really wanted the Lakers to keep and have him stick around, myself included. I felt like he was a real gem in just a miserable season that year. That was the year that we had like the super team, right? With like Wes and Carmelo, and you had like Dwight Howard, and you just like had like a team that was like, man, if this was 10 years earlier, you probably go 82-0. Bet Stanley Johnson. Now, the reason I even want to talk about him and bring him up is a couple reasons. One, chances are whatever the Lakers do, they're going to really need to find those kind of diamond in the roughs, cheap deals, right? Right now, even as it stands, no pun intended, Lakers are essentially allocated to just like vet minimum contracts. Right, that's kind of where they're at. Yes, they may have their full mid-level exception if D'Lo walks. More likely, probably the taxpayer mid-level. They don't have a lot to work with as far as free agency goes. So the Lakers are going to be looking into the trade market, right? Obviously, the Lakers are linked to, hey, getting a star, Donovan Mitchell, Trae Young, DeJounte Murray, you name it. And I do believe if the Lakers can land one of those guys, I do think they do. Now, I know that there's some murmurs that like, hey, the Lakers may prioritize depth over going and getting a star. I'll believe that when I see it. That's not really the Lakers' way, right? The Lakers have always kind of wanted to get stars. Also, they really want to build a team that is more Anthony Davis focused rather than LeBron focused. Luckily, kind of like everything you want for Anthony Davis, you kind of want for LeBron too. But even Rich Paul has kind of been like, hey, build around Anthony Davis. Don't build around LeBron. So I do think if the option is there for another star, I do believe that the Lakers go and pursue that, which, again, makes things very difficult, makes things very limited for the Lakers. Even if they go and just go get role guys, right? Let's say they don't get a star. Let's say they just go trade for, 2 or 3, just maybe upgrades, like legit two-way guys, right? Okay, fine. You're still kind of relegated to just role players, and you're going to need to go and round out the roster either way. Stanley Johnson, I think, would be just such a low risk, high reward. Now, we already know on the defense side of things, he's great, right? He was really good, and he's got good size, good strength, good length, everything you want to be a good defensive player. There's also a lot of talks about the Lakers potentially trading Jared Vanderbilt. Now, I'm not saying Stanley Johnson is Jared Vanderbilt level defensively, right? Jared Vanderbilt is arguably top 3 on-ball defensive player. I think you can even make an argument, particularly last year, not necessarily this year because he's hurt all year, but last year with the Lakers, he was by like every metric number 1. I digress though, right? You're going to need some defensive pieces one way or another. You also need some legit two-way pieces. Now, Stanley Johnson, when he was last with the Lakers, wasn't great shooting the 3 ball. He had a couple moments, he had a couple games, but for the most part, it was like a low 30% guy. Even some years was only in the 29%. So he just, which also worth noting, before I forget and brush this over, he just turned 28 years old. Like, think about that. He literally just turned 28 on May 29th, right? Like, that is a little, I thought he was older, right? So when I saw like the thing that kind of sparked it, well, one, I've seen a couple people in the comments be like, hey, Stanley Johnson. But I saw a graphic of Stanley Johnson just randomly popped up, or, Google, always listening, probably read my comments and were like, hey, here you go, kind of nudged me towards this video. But I saw the little graphic, and then I was like, yeah, but like, how old is he? And then I was like, he just turned 28. Like, I don't know. I thought he was older. Maybe some of you thought, I thought he was like 27, 28 when he was with us a couple years ago. So I thought he was like 31, 32. But anyway, I digress. Now, like I mentioned, two-way guys. Well, he was playing with Stockton Kings, Sacramento's G League affiliate. He averaged 14.2 points per game. He shot 41% from three-point range. 41% from three-point range. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that that's going to necessarily translate to the NBA level. It very well could, right? But there is a difference between G League and the actual NBA, and especially defenses and whatnot. But even if he could just be like league average from 3-point, like even if he's just like 36% from 3-point range, I'm not even saying he has to be 41%. Even if he just drops, 5 percentage points, I don't hate the idea. Because again, you're not necessarily looking, if he is 41%, then you just got to steal, right? If he really does shoot 41% from three, and if he can still play the defense we saw from a couple years ago, you just, that's a home run, right? Like that is a legit, like that's like, and look at like Dallas for an example, right? Derrick Jones Jr. This is a guy that was like the 15th guy on the bench, not even getting burned on the Miami Heat and Chicago Bulls, right? He goes to the right situation, which is the Dallas Mavericks, and he's been one of their best players. Like he's been one of their key factors, right? So like, again, I'm not necessarily saying that Stanley Johnson will do that or be that, but even if he's just like league average and he could play the defense we had and saw him play a couple years ago, he could be a real rotation piece. But I don't want to get too ahead of myself. I don't want to get too hyped up because your boy happy. But anyway, so with the Lakers, just kind of rewind back. That was the 2021-2022 season, right? As I mentioned. He played in 48 games, started 27 of those games, averaged 22.8 minutes per game. He shot 31.4% from three-point range with us. Now, what's funny is when we traded him the following year to San Antonio, or I believe we traded him. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think, didn't we add him to some, maybe we cut him. I don't remember. Or I think we traded him, was it to Utah and then he went elsewhere? I don't know. I digress, right? Point is, Stanley Johnson found his way to the San Antonio Spurs. And with San Antonio, he actually shot from three-point range 45% on, though, 1.5 attempts per game, right? So you saw the shooting there, and he was actually very good for San Antonio. Like I said, I don't really quite remember how he got there, but I do remember him playing for San Antonio. And it was like, wow, where did this come from? Like, how did this end up happening? So to me, like, again, if he can be a legit two-way guy, he's probably not even going to be your top 7 to 8 rotation. And if he is, hopefully it's because he's so good that he has to be, rather than the alternative, which is like, hey, the Lakers are maybe having another injury-whittled season or something like that. Hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully it's just like, man, Stanley Johnson is lighting it up from three and defending. But that would be ideal. But to me, it's like, I don't hate him on a flyer. Right? I don't hate him on like a prove it deal. I don't hate him on the idea of like, hey, let's bring him in and see what he can do. Because again, I mean, talk about a guy who's 6'7", I think, something like that. But he has a 7-foot wingspan. So he's got, again, good size, good length. He's strong and physical. Right? He's playing well in the G League, which again, I get G League is the G League, but we've seen some guys have success in the G League and actually translate. And again, this isn't a guy that we're looking to come in and be necessarily a star. This isn't a guy we're looking to come in and have this like huge major impact. We're just looking at him to come in and like, hey man, can you give us 10 minutes a game of just like honed in defense, right? Even if he's just kind of like a defensive specialist, right? Kind of him and Cam Reddish, because I don't think Cam Reddish leaves, right? Even if we're just using those two guys, right? Let's say we go get Trey, right? Like, I don't hate the idea of like Cam Reddish and Stanley Johnson having those two guys and maybe having like Reddish at the 2 and Johnson at the 3 in like small sporadic moments, right? Especially if Johnson can be serviceable from three-point range. Now, obviously, if they're both like 30% from 3, then it might be a little tough. But even just like, again, as like assignment guys for like, hey, we're in the playoffs, 7-game series. We're playing Denver, right? Like, hey, let's just throw Stanley Johnson on Michael Porter Jr., right? And just like, hey, we're going to give you like 5-10 minutes a game. Just wear him down. Be physical, be aggressive, get into his chest, give us a couple good hard playoff fouls, right? Like just to have that, or, late in the game, game's on the line, we got to get a stop. It's like, hey, throw Jared Vanderbilt, throw Stanley Johnson, throw Cam Reddish out there. Again, obviously we need some more two-way players. So I'm not saying let's say he is 31% from 3 when he comes to Lakers. I'm not saying like he's a guy that you have to play heavily. You still need to go get what you need to get. But even if he is, let's say he does come to the Lakers and let's say he shoots 40% from three. He's defending the best player on the other night, and he's a legit two-way. We got that home run diamond in the rough guy, right? We actually hit and had success in that regard. Even then, you still need another guy or two. Right? You still need another, like an Alex Caruso or something. That would just make you that much better, right? Because imagine if he really does become that. And let's say you do go trade for like a DeJounte Murray and Alex Caruso or something like, again, just throwing names out there. Man, you have like DeJounte Murray, Alex Caruso, Stanley Johnson, who's, again, 6'7", 6'8", with 7-foot wingspan, strong, sturdy, physical, not shooting that 40% from three, like is literally like our Jeremy Grant type guy. And then you have LeBron and Anthony. Like, that's good luck, right? At that point. The defensive versatility, all of that. So to me, it's like, it's just so low risk, high reward, right? It's a flyer. It's a prove it deal. Right? It's like, throw the vet minimum, you're talking like 1.2 million or whatever it would be. You're going to have to throw that to somebody. And that somebody is probably going to be at the end of the bench, not playing anyway. So why not take a shot on a guy like a Stanley Johnson who just shot 41% from three in the G League, and we know can be an excellent defensive guy, great hustle guy, rebounder, all that stuff. I like the idea of the flyer. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. Pass question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Do you love the idea? Do you hate the idea? Are you somewhere between? Do you think, yeah, go take that. Go take the flyer and Stanley Johnson, right? So vet minimum, what do you have to lose? Or do you think like, nah, got to stay away. Like, let him stay in the G League. He had a good moment. He had a good stretch for us. Good stretch for San Antonio, but he's out of the league for a reason. Whatever. I mean, look, it's possible another team picks him up. I don't know. We'll see. But again, love to your thoughts and opinions either way down in the comments. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. So we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.